Good morning. A bit louder than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
That'll change the world. Okay, Joshua, he came to me a few weeks ago and he said to me, could you open up and in 20 minutes explain about what you do about changing the conditioned mind? And I said, well, fair enough, because he knows I do that all the time with people and break people out of their work situation. And then he said, could you do the same 20 minutes? Could you change the world in 20 minutes as well? And I said, okay, that's a little bit more than I could possibly do. And he said, well, you know, if you do it, then everyone's going to go away happy. You'll do it in the beginning, and everyone will be perfectly happy to go home because the world will be a changed place. Now, I said, okay, I'll give it some thought. So I went home, and I thought, okay, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, lots of people before, across the thousands of years, have not managed to do that. How am I going to do it in 20 minutes? So then I thought, what I'll do is I'll get in contact with the omnipotent, omnipresent, vengeful being and ask their advice. So I got in touch with my girlfriend, Asta, as you do, and she said, well, why don't you go on that app you've got that gets you in touch to the universal mind? That's a great idea. So I went on this app, and it said, I put in a question, how can I change the world in 20 minutes? And it came back with, easy. I said, well, how's that then? And it said, what you need to do is you need to delegate the job. I said, that's a good idea, but to who? It said, everybody else, everyone in front of you. I said, okay, so it's your responsibility, not my responsibility if this doesn't work. Have you got it? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a little bit about how we're conditioned and how we can break out of that very, very rapidly. Now, a lot of people come to me and they say to me, Kern, you know, can you help me? I'm pissed off my job. I hate my job. I hate my boss. I hate everybody. Can you just do something about it? And I say, yeah, I can do something about it, but it's going to have a little bit of a price tag to it. And they say, well, I know you've got a fee, but that's okay. I said, no, that's not the price tag. It's because right now you're pissed off, but you don't know why you're pissed off. But when I finish with you, you'll go back to work and you'll be really pissed off. And you won't want to ever go back to work ever again. Oh, well, what am I going to do then? I said, that's not a problem, because that's going to happen anyhow. You're going to give up your job anyhow. And they said, am I? I said, yeah. Mainly because artificial intelligence is going to come in and take everybody's jobs anyhow, so you're going to be out of work. Well, what am I going to do? I said, well, the best thing to do is get ahead of the game. And that means that you start to learn how to break people out of the conditioned mind. Now, most of you in here are going to go, what's he on about, this conditioned mind? You know, I haven't got a conditioned mind. That's the conditioning talking. All right? You do not know you've got a conditioned mind. It's a voice within inside. Some of you have got this little berating voice. That's not the conditioned mind. That's the pissed off mind going, why don't you free me up from where I am and do something useful with your life? Have a bit of meaning, purpose, and destiny. And I talk about these three words all the time. How many of you in here, hands up, would like to have a bit of meaning, purpose? Let's start it. How many of you have a meaning, purpose, and destiny? You should all have your hands up right now. But the ones who haven't got their hands up, you can come and see me later, because you're the kind of people that I work with, because I give you that meaning, purpose, and destiny. So let's start with the beginning of your life and where that conditioning started. When you were born, from the age of sort of 1 to 5, you were completely free, totally imaginative mind. You could be a space cowboy, space cowgirl if you want. And you were running around with everybody, and it was all happy. And then you went to school, and someone said, look, focus, don't look out the window, don't daydream. We want to stuff a lot of information in your mind, and the better you are at regurgitating that, the more successful you will be, because you'll get a nice mortgage, have a nice life, be of value to society, and then you'll have a couple of years off and then die. That sounds good. So it starts off like that, and then they say, okay, you've got to remember this. We're going to take the top of your head off, and we're going to cram as much information in as possible, and at a certain point, you've got to regurgitate that. And if you can do that really well, you'll become a lawyer or an accountant. And he goes, okay, fine. And then you go through this system, which is an educational system that conditions your mind. And at a certain point, they say to the girls, you're going to go one way, and the guys, you're going to go the other. You used to play together. And that's the first division of us. And they say to the girls, from this point onwards, you're going to have a bag, and you're going to carry it for the rest of your life. And the girls go, I don't want that. Why do I want a bag? And you say, we're going to condition you to want that bag more than anybody or anything. And you're going to carry stuff that you don't want in it, because you might forget stuff. And they go, oh, doesn't sound very good. What's this boy going to do? Well, he's going to carry nothing. And the conditioning starts there. And they say, well, surely he's got to carry something. Well, we're going to give him a card to carry. So, oh, what's that for? It's so he can pay for your handbag and you're going to love that handbag, but also you can have shoes with it as well, and he can pay for that and also carry the shopping. Great, that's the guy's purpose. So we get his conditioning, and then we go into this life where we go into employment, and we start to be conditioned more. And we have to go into a process-driven world, and that's left-centered brain. And if you know understand anything about the brain, it's left-centered, and all our lives are left-centered thinking, trying to be logical, work it out for ourselves, trying to understand things. And if we don't understand things, we go to someone who's a higher authority and try to get their information, and we sometimes think we're not intelligent enough or not good enough or not capable enough because we're all stuck here. If we've been born with a right mind, then we're in the right-hand side. But we can't get on because we haven't got enough process, and we start not getting our days sorted out, and things just drift by. But that's type 1 and type 2 thinking. And what I move people to is type 3 thinking, where you have the process, you have the creativity, and you go into flow. So you never have to worry about anything ever again because all the solutions come to you. All the words come to you. You go into a state of complete flow. And this is a state of a higher level of consciousness. And we all have it naturally. We just get conditioned down not to have it. So as you go through the day, you're going to be able to practice a couple of things that will change your brains by the time you've come to the end of the day. And you can do this yourselves. How do you change your brain? So if we come back to neuroscience, years ago, neuroscience used to tell us our brains are like a rock. Once we get them, that's it. IQ done. You're just where you are in society. But now neuroscience has changed its mind, which is convenient, and said the brain has got a neuroplasticity to it that is constantly changing. And every environment we go into, every talk we go into, every meeting we go into changes the dynamic of that mind. And there are 3 things that changes the dynamic of our mind. The first is chemicals. Now, Josh mentioned about drugs and all that sort of stuff, and I'm sure lots of you have brought them. So what we ingest changes the dynamic of our mind. And if we ingest the wrong stuff, it's going to suppress our mind. The other thing is the structure of our brain. The structure, if we have an accident or a stroke, our brain can change its dynamic and actually start to replicate those functions in other parts. And the last is function, what we do each and every day with our brains. And what you do each and every day with your brains will result in the level of your awareness and your level of creativity, free thought, and simple consciousness. So what I'm going to do is start with going back into the anthropological origins, just very briefly, to finish what I'm talking about, because I'm probably getting to the end of my very short space, and start with talking briefly about what our ancestors used to do. Now, there's 2 things that will change the way your brain works immediately. Now, the first thing is exercise. And the second thing is talking to strangers. And obviously, if you come and work with me, then you never get any more strange than talking to me. But talking to strangers is a fundamental. And where does that go? It goes right back to our origins. So I want you to do something for me for a second. I want you, if you want to change the level of your consciousness, I want you to take your right arm and put it up in the air, like that. If someone hasn't got their arm in their air, then they're not wanting to change their level of consciousness that much. Okay, I want you to imagine that there is a very powerful rubber band to the ceiling from your arm, and that there is a handle in your arm. And I want you to visualize that in your mind, that it is there. And I want you to think of it as a very powerful rubber band, and I want you to pull down on it. Okay? Pull down on it down to here. Okay? Now, I want you to imagine that there's a band to the floor. I want you to push up against it. Okay? Now, what's that done? You can take your hand down a minute. What has it done? What it's done is it's exercise. It's given you exercise immediately because it's fired off what's called an antagonistic muscle group, that one against that one. You would have felt that, and we'll do another exercise in a second. But what it's also done is taken you out of your comfort zone, because you don't do that in a normal day. What you've said to yourself is that, one, you've anchored and made an intention to your mind, the consciousness, and everybody around you. Those who didn't put their hand up, you didn't make an intention. That made an intention, and the more times you do that each day, the more your consciousness will elevate. But you also visualized, and this is one of the techniques that you can use. Now, the second technique is I want you to put your arms down like that by the side of you. And you can go around all day doing this, because by the end of the day, you'll be much fitter, your metabolism will be reprogrammed, and within 30 days, you'll be super fit, got a lot of strength, a lot of energy, and you'll be able to change the world, okay? Nothing much. Okay, I want you to shake a little bit. Great. Okay, now I want you to imagine that there's a dumbbell in the arms. Imagine it, imagine the color, imagine the weight. Do it at 10 pounds. Bring it up. Okay? right to the top. Now, don't drop it. It's imaginary. And then come back down. Okay? Now what I want you to do is to double it to 20 pounds. In your mind, think of it as 20 pounds. Now, it's heavier, so you've got to go slower and flex those muscles a bit more. Now, drop it back down. Now, I want you to go to 60 kilos. Come on, you guys. You're all big, hefty guys. Women are much stronger. Go 60 kilos. Now, I can do 420, so don't you worry about it. All right, drop it down. Now, I want you to do 120 kilos. Go on, 120. Come on. Get out there. All right? Now, drop it back down. Now, that's exercise. By doing that, you've visualized and you've increased your brain capacity. You've started to take hold of your management system. If you do that 6 to 10 times during your day, you will become incredibly fit. You won't have to go to the gym again, and you can eat what you want, chocolate, wine, cake, and you can digest it all. Super cool way of doing it. This is fact. The other way of advancing your mind, and these are 2 exercises you can do here, and I'm going to finish with this one. The other way is talking to strangers. Now, that is super scary. But we all like to do it in some way. Now, what does talking to strangers do? If you go back 10, 20,000 years, it was a survival mechanism. And this is why it's very important to do this. Because when you went out and you met someone for the first time, you didn't know what they wanted from you. They didn't know whether they wanted to fight you, befriend you, have sex with you. All right? You didn't know. So your brain, when you're actually with people you know, goes into a passive state. You know the patterns of what they think, you lock in straight away. But when you're with a new person, you're going into this survival instinct. So all the brain fires up very, very rapidly. So what I want you to do is just turn to the person next to you, who you don't know, shake their hand and say hi. I want you to take the next person next to you and shake their hand and say hi. And I want you to take the next person and say hi. And mean it, you know? Smile. Well done. Now, nobody is strange here anymore. We all know each other. And that means we can all start working out, we can all start talking, and we can all start changing the world. And what I want you to do next is the next step in the game. I want you to all stand up for a second. The next step is motivating each other to do better, to change the world, to listen to the speakers, to action on it. Not just listen and accept the knowledge, but to go further, to use it in your lives, pass it on. And that is the next step. But how do you do that? You motivate yourself by doing those exercises, talking to people all the time, speaking to them. But I want you to motivate other people right now. And I want you to do something for me. I want you to give yourself and the person next to you, those people you've talked to, I want you to give them a massive round of applause. Thank you very much.